How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the What's Up Eddie channel, Divine Therapy Sessions. And of course, I'm the one and only Eddie. So glad to have you guys back. And these are my Divine Therapy Sessions. And today, we're going to talk about some pretty cool subjects. The Kabbalion, Hermeticism, kind of my story of how I got into it. And I'm going to go with the first principle, which is the principle of mentalism. And I'm going to explain these things because it's vital for humanity to know these things, because it's information that isn't given to us and I believe that this subject matter should have been taught to us in school at a young age, as young as possible, where someone could actually retain this information. It would change people's lives completely. We have no business learning any of the other stuff. Yes, I think it's a good idea to learn math and arithmetic and English and some history, true history, not the history that's taught, because the history is not told to us in the correct way. When we all kind of get that feeling anyways. And I always say this, you guys, I am of Native American, and what was taught to us in the history books and even high school are a far cry from the truth, and it's insane. So that's already the teachings, right? But like, I want to explain to you guys the actual why these principles, the laws of the universe, and now they can be called different things, right? Like I always say, the all, God. All I'm trying to do for you guys is desensitize the words of because we got to stop treating God, our creator or universe, like a football team. You've been programmed to think about things in a way for us to categorize things, group them in subject matters that don't help us, that actually makes us distant and group off. I am here to tell you that there's no difference if you're a spiritualist, new age, religion, indigenous, like you're an Indian culture. All of us have these principles in it, these I would say the laws of God, right? And each one of our like healing steps, like the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, is from ancient Greek and ancient Egyptian. It's pretty much so, like it went from there to Hermeticism to like the Freemasons. Like they just made it more popular. They remodernized it is the word to be using. But okay, so what I'm trying to tell you guys is that this information is huge. 303 on the clock, meaning that this is a master number, right? These are ascended master teachings. These are the teachings of God. These will literally open your life in a way that you've never thought possible. Okay, 16 months ago, you guys, Eddie decided to get sober because Eddie was killing himself. Eddie literally tried to kill himself. And this life got brought upon me on my own wrongdoings, right? And you could only take what happened to me as a child and let that affect me for so long. But because no one taught me how to live in a life that was going to be, no one taught me about trauma healing. I had to figure that out on my own. And when I finally figured it out, I was already at the age of 33. So it was quite late. We should have learned that a long time ago. And some of us do learn this. But now I'm putting it in a perspective that's going to help you guys. And I'm giving you a backstory so you guys can understand. I'm still going to talk about mentalism and how we can implement that in our everyday life. And because it is our everyday life. And it will start to release your way of thinking about religion, God, the reason why we do things and the why, like even the fabric of our reality, right? And why it would even group into like the nefarious as opposed to like the ones that have uplift and bring light to humanity, right? So, all right, so I actually got sober, right? And mind you, I want to say this, I haven't said this before, is that I actually had a lot of experiences before this that I never knew was mystical right? Or mysticism, right? And that's just another word for saying you're having a God response, which is meaning that like you're seeing something more than what reality is showing you. A lot of shamans have this, indigenous cultures, religion has this as well. So there's no difference. It just looks different, right? It's the actual definition, I think, is like getting closer to God or seeing the absolute or being at one with it, right? And so sobriety was the first initiation. It was the initiate for me. And then secondly, I was doing the steps. I was starting to do the trauma work, and the trauma, once I started to realize the concept behind those magical steps that changed my life, I realized, wow, this is so helpful, and it relieved me of so many of my stresses. And once so this is why I always say, once you keep taking the masks off or taking the bags off your back or taking the weights out, it gets real easy to start to keep walking or ruck marching, right? Once you take that baggage out, you guys, one thing at a time, you're able to start thinking. And then you're able to start using your heart more efficiently. And what happened with me is that I started to realize that there was more going on in the universe than met the eyes. I started realizing repeating numbers, and I thought to myself, what, like, this has to mean something. Why does this keep happening at certain times? And then the same numbers would happen, actually, it would happen at the same times during the same events. And I started to realize, you know what, there is something with that. I'm going to check it out. And I actually waited for a long time, but I ended up checking it out, and what had happened, it changed my life. I actually found out that the numbers meant something. And then I realized, wait a minute, it started to restructure my mind, the way I thought about things. And then I thought, wow, you know what? There's a deeper meaning to all of this. And for me, I had a hard time because I was programmed, right? So I speak about myself. When I say you guys, I'm only talking about myself. So I'm not talking down to you or saying this or that. I'm telling you this information because it's so useful and so helpful, and it will change the way that you approach your life. Everyday life won't be the same. It'll be more fruitful. That's why I believe that, like, even the teachings in the Bible, the Holy Bible, are they actually have these principles in them hidden within it. And even the teachings of these great men, who they changed literally the face of the earth, right? Like Jesus Christ is the most famous person who ever lived. Let's just say that, right? It's the truth. And these principles, this new way of thinking is actually in these books, religious texts, right? These religious doctrine. Okay, so for me, I started listening to the messages that came to me because these messages actually mean things. And this isn't the only way of communication. I believe when God said that his texts, you can actually, a person who is like, they have like a bad intention or is not meant to read the text, they can't read it. And there's a reason for it. And I believe that, like, the reason is because with this information, you can do some bad things with it. But with this information for his people, you can do wondrous things on planet Earth. Now, when I started to just implement not even 1%, less than 1% of the information that was given to me, my life began to change in ways that I could not tell you. And I hate to always say abundance, but like, abundance was the first thing, right? Money started to flow in a little bit easier. A vehicle, but for me, it was more of the mental state, the spiritual state, the emotional state, all of the physical state started to change. I actually began to glow up, right? The famous, he glue up or she glowed up. It's because of the principles that I began to learn. Now, one of the informations that was given to me was, Eddie, look into sacred geometry. And I said, all right, I'm gonna check it out. Because they were actually, my guides were coming into my dream state. And when I actually started to look up sacred geometry, it was the end of all. I believe that possibly in past lifetimes, and I do believe in past lives, that what happens is that you can reactivate the DNA that's in you, and you could reactivate old lifetimes, which you become a more whole person, right? And I believe that you can bring those past experiences into your present and merge those timelines, right? And what happens is you begin to have a different knowledge. I say the knowledge of God's, or God, and this information is given to people, I think, is like when we're in this new stage of everyone waking up, right? Because we all know something bad is going on planet Earth. We know that. And so now we're being woken up to start teaching others. And you'll find the light workers, the ones that are attracted to my channel, you are a light worker. You are a child of light. You are God's light. And you are supposed to come here to planet Earth to awaken the rest of us. Everyone else. It's hard, but it's worth it, and it's worthy. And the moment that you take the calling up, your life will change, and you will change the lives of others. And I promise you, God has built you for your life to be successful in the inside. Forget the outside, but the outside will follow suit, because that's the principles that I'm going to teach you. Stay on this, you guys. I promise you, you guys will get a lot. 11 right now, which is a portal's opening for you guys. Manifested. Miracles are manifesting right now. So what happened to me is I looked up and so why am I so interested in this information in the beginning, right? I actually read this information in immaculate detail, and I got what resonated with me. I left the rest alone, right? And I can tell you this, is that 5 things stood out for me immediately. The golden ratio, sacred geometry, the Hermetic principles, which is the 7 universal laws, the Kabbalah, which is like the Yetzirah Zifra, or the Zephra Yetzirah, and then and then just this category would just be like philosophers. One of them happened to be Pythagorean, and I realized through these concepts, because I believe that when they give you the message, you're going to expand on it. And that's what happened to me. I was so interested in this. So I know at some point in my life, I practiced Hermeticism, or I was a healer of some type. And that goes back to like the god of Hermes, right? And like, I believe that like you can be bestowed with certain knowledge, right? That can actually uplift humanity. And you see a lot of this actually. I was actually surprised. I'm doing my research on YouTube, doing my research online, because you guys, I'll tell you this, everything that you need to know already exists. And if it already exists, that means that you can find it anywhere. The internet has all the information that you need, actually. Not all of it, right? There's a lot of farce within it, but if you are directed by your guides, you will get to the information that you need. All right, guys, so check this out. When I actually started to piece things together, I realized that life shouldn't be categorized. That, you know, I mean, you can obviously, but like I don't want to be defined as just one thing, because I'm not. I'm multidimensional. And even with these principles. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Hermeticism. All right, I got my notes with me too. And mind you guys, these concepts come from our ancestors, right? So our ancestors, we don't have a good genealogy because there's thousands of years missing, right? And then you have cultures that come up like Lemuria, and then we can only go far as back as the Egyptians, right? So, or I'm sure that's Egyptians. It's like, I think that's the one that's coming up in my head right now. And then we have the Greeks, right? Romans. So all these cultures are far back, right? And these teachings of just in Egypt, they're showing that in Egypt they were more far advanced than we are. Even the way that they built things, it's just so much more advanced. So what does that tell us? That they were privy to knowledge that we were not. And I believe, you guys, that this knowledge in humanity today is known, but it's known in small circles. And you know this because it actually reflects, and these are the laws. If you just followed the law and knew the law of God, which is the 7 universal laws, and I believe the text in the Holy Bible, the 10 commandments, those are God's laws too. God's not just one. He's not one-sided. God is multidimensional. He's a multidimensional being, right? So all these categories are mixed together. There is no difference in my mind anymore. And when you start to think that way, your life will change. I promise you. You will be able to start doing things that you never thought possible. But okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. I'm all excited right now because it's like I know this information. If someone had put this in a YouTube video just the way that I did, I would have been like, I'm on this. Let's do it. Get it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so helpful and useful. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that ancient Egypt had these principles. The Hermeticism, right? They got these principles from I might butcher this a little bit, but he's a philosopher. I think his name was, oh man, what is it? Hermetic something, Trismegistus or something like that. Sorry, I fouled his name up, but if you look it up, you'll see it. You'll be able to find him. It's really easy. And the Hermeticism was it was made after the book that he made, and the book is called The Kabbalion, and it's a book by the 3 initiates. And this book is mind-blowing. Read if you can read it. It's but you can get more of like the I would say the English version on the internet. And if you can't read, because you have to be, see, that's what the thing is a lot of the times we get taught that we have to be just a logical person and not a creative person, but that's not true. We all are both. Yeah, you might have stronger talents and characteristics towards one side of the brain than the other, but I believe that when you open your mind, that you are both of them. That's why that these texts sound imaginary and very creative. I figured out that these sophisticated philosophers, like the Pythagorean, Plato, Socrates, teachings that we learn and derive from so much of our stuff, these men didn't just do, like, we know Pythagorean by the Pythagorean theorem, right? It's because we've been so washed down and dumbed down that we don't know that this man had so many other things that he did. He had so much beautiful creations. So it's because their mind was more expanded. They used things and they didn't box themselves in. And you find that most geniuses, most men, or not just men, women, because you got to remember time, we're getting more of an expansive place where we're actually, I believe, you guys, check this out. I believe if we put women in power, our world would be a better place. Hands down. Let's give women a chance, right? And the reason why that isn't happening is because there's people that know that would actually be a good thing for us. I'll tell you this right now. What do women utilize that men don't? A lot of the time, intuition. Now imagine a very intellectual woman who uses her intuition and who is not enticed by just complete power or reign, because a lot of the times that's what men have showed us, right? Or they don't have any of those characteristics and they're a puppet. That's a problem. I believe that women can further our race along, and their mothers, right? Like, there's so many wonderful things about women. But anyways, getting off track a little bit there. So going back to the actual, okay, so so I was talking about the philosopher, or not, I guess you would call him philosopher, Pythagorean, right? He's one of the ones that I'm saying that he's multi, and when we actually implement these characteristics within ourselves, don't ever put anyone on a bar above you, because you are actually the standard. That's what I want to teach everybody. Every person on planet Earth is the most intelligent, is the most beautiful, and is infinite in all. God made you perfect just the way that you are. You are actually co-creating with God, the universe, the Almighty. You actually are great just the way that you are. You are actually co-creating with God. Now, when you think about it in those terms, that's uplifting, you guys. That means God wants you to be the best you. It's this environment here on planet Earth that is defiling you, that is making you think and operate in a way that's actually against your own nature. And that's why I'm going to jump into the actual principle of mentalism. It's the first one, right? Okay, let's see if I missed anything right before I actually explain that. Oh yeah, so Hermeticism is so it's considered like magic, right? It's mysticism. It explains the interconnectedness of all of us, and obviously alchemy, which is change in every essence, not just in the form of metals, but in the form of us as a being, right? Okay, so know that there's 7 principles, and right now, and they're esoteric teachings. And so let me look at my notes real quick. Yeah, I already told you guys that there's no difference between the group categories, and that's what I want to break in the way that we think mentally about. And that's why I always say, like, treating God or universe like a football team. Oh, my team is better than your team, and it only keeps us separate from each other. And that's why I always tell you, interconnectedness, that our being in unity will actually teach us that both of our teams are good. They're the best, and that your team actually could teach my team, and we could become better teams. It actually is in football too, but there's no difference between religious, indigenous, shaman, spirituality, and New Age. There's no difference. There's obviously it shows up a little differently, but these principles of Hermeticism are in it. The laws of the universe are in it. It has to be. It is the law of the universe. That is God's rule, right? All right. So, and I want you to know that you are co-creating with the one and only God. Every day you're co-creating. And the only reason why it gets hard for you, these are the everyday implications. Implementation. How is it going to help you today, right? That's why I always say, like, this is how it further expanded my mind when I started to realize that, like, your everyday actions affect the whole. It's not just about you anymore. And when you think about it like that, that can grow humanity. That can actually move us forward. And we as people, there's more, okay, if you think about it like this, there's the first dimensional, the second dimension, third dimension, right? Then the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh, all the way to the ninth, even further and beyond, right? That already tells us that there's different states of reality and perceptions of reality. This is proven in there's good astrologists, people who study space. So, like, the perspective of an ant is a different perspective of the human being, right? So what I'm saying is that there's altered states of reality, and I know this to be true because of the altered states that I have seen already. And you're probably like, whoa, what are you talking about? I've actually had really bad trips. Obviously this is before all this, right? I've been sober for 16 months, but I've had trips where I was in alternate states, and I've had a near-death experience, which I'll explain at a further distant time. But reading all this information and implementing this spiritual new life, I realized what was being taught to me in that vision, right? But that's for later experience. I really want to get to terms with it myself, right? Okay, so the first principle is the principle. Oh, you're co-creating your reality with God. That means that you are grand. You are beautiful and you're loved. Don't let anyone tell you any different. That is the reality. And when you make that your reality, you become something more. The principle of mentalism. The all is mine and the universe is mental. That sounds funny, right? You're mental. It's funny when someone says that, because it's a reality. Like, because it is all mental. And it's saying that everything's governed by a central mind, and that this is just a perspective, a reality. That's why a lot of the times when we have, like, simulation theory, chaos theory, all these theories, right? There's a half truth to all of it, right? Because everything's a half truth at the end of the day, because we're not going to know some things. We're not privy to all of the knowledge. How could we be when we know that the universe is infinite? If it's infinite, it's forever progressive, meaning that you're never not going to know everything. The only one that knows that is God. And if you are God, at some point, I think when you get into unity with God, you will know. Right? But let's see. Yeah, so the universe itself is a living mind. And that's what it tells us. It tells us that we're all one. We're one unit. And if we think about ourselves as, so that goes back to the law of one. That's actually readings that I got from the law of, what is it? I forget the book, but it's Teachings of Ra. It's an actual channeled, some lady and like a group of people actually channeled this entity called Ra. And Ra was actually a sender or a messenger of the one creator. And the text is mind-blowing. It literally, I understood it. I don't even know how, but it actually just expands on this stuff, and it just brings it together. So the law of one essentially is saying that everything is everything, like you are everything. And even the book, this car around me right now, the book, this is all me. And it has to all be us, right? Because God is everything, right? God is universe. God has made everything, and God has made it all in his mind. His words, it even says in the Bible, right, that his words were spoken and it was done. So that sounds a lot like us, does it not? Isn't that the law of vibration? Or the law of attraction? We are like God. God has made us in his image because we're able to speak our words and actually co-create with the universe, because we are co-creating, and we're actually making our reality of substance. It's actually, we make it real, right? That's why we make our cool companies. People can make vehicles, people can fly. Like we're doing things, breaking science. People are breaking records. They put it in their mind that they can beat it, and then they beat it, right? That's actually the part of the whole process. I always say this, as that this law actually teaches us that we're interconnected. And if you know that we're interconnected, everything that you do has an immediate or delayed response, but it will have an effect on the entirety of the whole, every person. That's we know this principle works in our family dynamic. Let's say that you guys come from a family who is known for, let's just say, for losing weight. You guys have a weight loss company, and you guys all live in this lifestyle where you guys are, let's say, workout people, right? And secretly, you actually been getting liposuction. And one of those people actually took the shortcut and did that. Let's just say one of your family members done that, right? And they actually, comes out, and then now your whole immediate family gets affected by it, right? They're like, oh, they're false. That's not how they really are. This is the law in act. Now, it might be a distortion, a low vibrational example, but it is an example. So this just is me teaching you that that's the small version, right? There's always the small effect and the bigger effect, right? Like it's always the micro to the macrocosm. Now, the way that this can affect us, it can affect us both in positive and negative. Now, I'll get into this principle later because that is another principle, but just know that everything that you think is your reality, and everything around you is you as well. So the way that you treat other people is entirely how you treat yourself. Everyone is you. It's a version of you, and their version is a version of me, right? It goes back and forth. So you would actually, if you started implementing these principles in the way that they were meant to be, you wouldn't treat people foul. You would actually treat people with love, because you know that love is the highest vibration of all, and you want to uplift the next person. So if you see them hurting, you're going to actually bring them up, and you're going to want to teach them, right? It's very hard to implement, but when you implement it, your life will change. Now, let's see. We've got to implement this in everyday life, right? Now, I feel like when you ask yourself questions, you get a better perspective of yourself. Now, what are the questions that I actually wanted to ask? Let's see. You got to first ask, what are you passionate about? Because you're going to have to find something. And this is why I believe you need to find out why you're here on Earth. because you are here for a reason. Each and every one of us, even if you don't think that you are, you are. And a lot of the times, what you were meant to do here on earth, which leads me to the next question, is what is your purpose on earth? What do you align with? Truly align with? Not because of what your mama told you, or your daddy, or your bald-headed granny. I'm talking about everything on planet. What is it that truly resonates with you? If you love the plants, the ecosystem, and that's what you truly like, but your dad and your mom want you to be a lawyer, and you go the lawyer route, I promise you that it wouldn't be expansive. It wouldn't be growth. It would, yeah, you would grow, but you wouldn't get the full experience that the creator wanted to co-create with you, because you actually chose before you got here. That desire that you have inside of you, those talents, those natural talents, are actually put there for a reason. And when you find your purpose, the reason why you're supposed to be here on earth, that is the magic. That is the magic that I tell everybody. When you find out why you're here, you can change your world and change the world around you. Know that. It's the truth. It's the truth now. You're, okay, so, and I think that's pretty much it. Find your purpose. Yes, it's finding your purpose is the main, I feel like the main principle. Now there's more principles within this principle, but that is like the everyday implementation. And I also think that it also goes to, obviously, if it's mental, right? Training your mind. You'll figure out that your mind state is everything. There's no difference between the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. These are different planes of existence, and these planes of existence actually interact with the other ones, and they affect the other ones, and it will affect your actual reality here. So I believe that those, like simulation theory, stuff like that, actually exist. It very well could be, right? It could be the truth, or half the truth. But I'm telling you, this is like, you have to train your thoughts in such a way that it's purely, utterly about your mission on earth. And I believe, because we're I'm sorry, we're trained or programmed or conditioned to think certain ways, and a lot of it's fear-based, low self-esteem, unworthiness, self-loathing. All those things are conditioned in us, and it distracts us from actually the actual reason why we're here. And you'll find that, like, when you actually start getting to a place where you train your thoughts entirely on what you're supposed to be doing, it comes to fruition so much faster and so much stronger. And I'm just telling you, is if you actually find why you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing, you can change the world, and you'll see miracles happen in your own life. And I promise you, I've seen it in my own. I never thought I would ever make a YouTube channel. I never thought that I would be a communicator, a motivational speaker. I never thought that I would even talk about any of these concepts. I didn't even think that I was going to be alive 16 months ago. I mean, tried to kill myself, right? So my life has changed in ways that I never thought possible. It's a miracle that I'm talking to you even today. But because I've implemented and I started to co-create with God in the way that He intended it for me, my life is actually on point now, right? Is it still riddled? Yeah, so is it riddled with discomfort? Sometimes, yes. And there's sadness because I have a lot of things that had happened to me, right? And a lot of things that I put myself through. But it's not going to stop me from the mission at hand. And that's what I tell you guys, is that don't get caught up. You know, figure out what it is that God put you here for. And when you figure that out, I promise you, if you you got to train your mind in such a way that you put it all into that one subject, and it'll start being fruitful. It's manifesting, right? Law of attraction. So training your thoughts is huge on this. Yeah, you guys, hopefully you caught something from this. There's a lot of information. A lot of it's beautiful. I'm going to be coming at you with more principles, how we can implement it, and you'll realize that all the principles are actually interwoven together, interconnectedness, right? And one plays off the other. And if you implement all of them, know that, like, the way that if you implement it in your life, it'll change completely. But I think that's all I got, you guys. Got a little distracted, sorry. But hopefully you guys did get something. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peeps. I love you, fam.